Hey there, welcome back to camp. I'm Rich Hawkins, and today we're at the Mount Alamuchi Scout Reservation to look at the figure 8 knot and some variations and how we use the figure 8 in the world of climbing. Remember, climbing is inherently dangerous and should never be attempted without adequate training and supervision. Let's get into it. So there's a lot of different knots that we use in climbing, but the figure 8 knot is one that we start with and that we build on. It's a very simple knot to get together, and once you know it, you're never going to forget it. Starting with the working end of your rope, we just want to make a loop and cross the working end over what's called the standing end. Once we're crossed over once, we make a second loop by wrapping all the way behind the standing end, and then we pass the working end through our first loop. Already it's starting to look like an 8. As we pull this tight, that is a figure 8 knot. Real easy, takes about 2 seconds. You'll be able to tie them behind your back if you practice just a little bit, but we get to build on it. Once we have a figure 8 knot, we can make variations and put a bite or a loop on the end of it, something that we can clip a carabiner to or tie directly into a harness. That's going to be the easiest place to start. So once you've practiced your figure 8 knot and you can tie that without really thinking about it too much, then we can start to put a bite on the end of our rope. A bite is just a bend, but for what we want to do, we need a closed loop, a secure place to clip a carabiner or hang weight off of. To do that, we're going to start by taking our working end and getting a good distance, 3 or 4 feet's a good place to start practicing, and make a large bite and just fold that working end back. From here in, we're going to use the bite of our rope as the working end now. So just as we tied the figure 8 just a second ago, we're going to do it with the bite now. So we make a loop, we cross behind, and finally we pass through the front, through that first loop. And it looks very, very similar. Already you can see why we call it that figure 8. And now we have a bite. I took an extra second while I was tying this to lay everything out flat, so you can see the 2 strands of our rope as they work through this whole figure 8 on a bite. That's important, and again, it'll come easier with practice because we want to dress the knot. If your knot is twisted and kinked, and when you tighten down on it and put weight on it, it doesn't load evenly, it doesn't pull evenly. It creates very, very tight spots that are very hard to untie, and theoretically can weaken the rope by creating a pinch point. By laying out your figure 8 on a bite very flat, we can then dress the knot very quickly. So with it laid out like this, we take the outer loops for our 8 and we fold them. That one comes up, this one goes down, and then when we pull tight, our figure 8 cinches down very clean, very round, very symmetrical. And again, nowhere is it pinching, is it binding, and it's creating a very even tension throughout the knot for the rope to hold on to whatever we're hanging. So the figure 8 on a bite gives us an easy way to clip into the end of our rope if we're going to be carrying something up a hill or if we're going to be pulling something up our climbing wall. Even if we have a climber that we just want to clip into very quickly, this is a great way to do it. But there's one more variation that we need to be aware of. It's called a figure 8 follow through. Generally, you tie this with one piece of rope to create a bite at the end and then tie back through itself. With a figure 8 on a bite, there's no way to tie this into a loop on your harness. You have to clip into it. With a figure 8 follow through that we're going to show in just a second, you tie in and pass the rope directly through your harness. No carabiner needed. So we're going to start the same way. We come in a little ways and we tie our simple figure 8 knot. We're going to leave it really, really loose because in just a moment, we're going to need to work our way back through the figure 8 that we've just tied. This is also called a retrace, and you'll see why in just a second here. What I'm going to use is our figure 8 on a bite and pass through the bite. So now my working end is going to follow itself all the way back through my knot. And once again, we're back to a very flat figure 8 with a bite. But because we tied it through something else, the name changes. We didn't tie it using the bite, we used the working end. The result is the same though. We take our outer loops on the figure 8 and fold one up, fold one down, and pull tight. And once again, we have a very strong, secure, consistent knot, very symmetrical, very easy to tie and untie. We can see that that is a figure 8 on a bite or a figure 8 follow through in this case. And the way that we can check that is called counting 10. There are 5 spots as we look at this knot from one face that we should see the 2 strands of our rope side by side. One's out the bottom, there's a horizontal, there's 2 diagonals, and one coming out the top. So because we have 2 ropes at each of those 5 positions, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, we're able to count 10 on this knot. If it were not properly dressed, NOT, we would see less than 10. We might have an extra twist somewhere along the way. And all of a sudden, our knot looks uneven. We can see that there's a problem. And that tells us just to take a second and recheck what we're doing. Here, if we try to count 10, 2, 4, 6, something's wrong. It jumps out at you, and it's just an easy way to check that your knot is properly tied, and it will be secure, and it's the right knot. So there you have it. Figure 8 on a bite, and figure 8 follow through. If you have any questions, ask. Look it up in your Scout Handbook, look in the Climbing Merit Badge book. There's great resources out there, and you should really take the time and learn how to tie these knots properly. Stay safe and climb on. Hey there, welcome back to camp. I'm Rich Hawkins, and today we're going to look at the figure 8 knot and how to use... Nope. That has nothing to do with that first sentence. Nope. Woo! Yes, snow is slippery. Good job, genius.